What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Views from the Sideline. Today, I'm joined by Ekamresh as always, and we have Mitch on the podcast today. Today is going to be an interesting podcast because we've had a few really interesting things happen in the NBA in the last couple of weeks. First, we had Donovan Mitchell. He was traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So how the trade went overall, we had the Cleveland Cavs. They received Donovan Mitchell, and the Jazz received Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, three unprotected first-round picks and two pick swaps, and just a little bit of some of the money. He's on the second of a 5-year, $163 million deal with the Cavs for Donovan Mitchell, and then Colin Sexton signed a 4-year, $72 million deal with the Jazz. So the Jazz decided to keep him. And then Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Quinn Snyder, they're all gone from the Jazz this offseason. So, it's going to be weird how they're going to be next season. And then the Jazz have seven first-round picks in the upcoming drafts. Overall, what are your thoughts on this trade?
First of all, I have to say it was like completely out of left field. Like I did not expect him to go to Cleveland, like out of all places. Like people were saying the Knicks, they were saying Miami, some people were saying like Washington or something. And of course, the Lakers, that always got to be thrown in there. But nobody was saying the Cavs. Like the Cavs have, I feel like in general in trade talks, the Cavs have never been there. So to see him go to Cleveland, I was just like, that's so random, right?
Yeah.
But I think overall it was a good decision for the Cavs because now they have a backcourt of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Then you have Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and let's say Isaac Okoro to fill out your starting lineup. Or no, Evan Mobley, sorry, to fill out your starting lineup. And that's a really strong lineup in my opinion. You have three All-Stars there. Then you have Evan Mobley, who was arguably, right up there with Scottie Pippen for Rookie of the Year. Maybe should have even won it. And then Karis LeVert, who had a strong season in Indiana. So that's a really good lineup there. And then their bench also is quite deep. So I think for the Cavs, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they did a really good job with it, that they gave away. Feel like it did come out of left field, but I feel like they were a team that had the resources in order to do a trade like that. And based on what they gave away, they were able to give away a Colin Sexton, a piece that was probably more of an experimentation that they really weren't going to follow through with anyway. So I feel like it was a little bit of a low risk. And, they also gave away Lauri Markkanen, but Lauri Markkanen, I feel like he adds height to wherever he goes, but I feel like besides that, he wasn't really going to find a place amongst all the other 7-footers on that Cavs roster. So I feel like I said, they kind of got rid of a lot of pieces that, maybe they weren't going to really follow through with anyway. And draft picks are draft picks. And I feel like it was pretty fair compensation.
Yeah, looking at the Cavs roster, at first when, I heard about the trade, obviously, what Ekamresh said, it was so random because you kind of thought about the Knicks, Wizards, and all those other teams. But then, and I thought that their bench wasn't developed because, obviously I didn't really watch the Cavs too much. But then I kind of looked and, as I'm looking right now, they said their starting lineup is going to be something like Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and Isaac Okoro. But then on the bench, they have Karis LeVert, who was a huge asset to the Pacers, and then he got traded to the Cavs. You have Kevin Love, who's a really good veteran there. You have Dylan Windler, who's he's young but he's getting there. Chetty Osman is doing really well so far in his career. And then you just have some of these other small role players. You still have Ricky Rubio, I think, or maybe he got waived. But you have Robin Lopez, who's a good big man. Raul Neto, who's a good 3-point shooter. So you have a really balanced team, and especially with your bench, if you have a strong starting lineup, obviously you want your bench to be developed. Which personally for me, I think we discussed it earlier in a few of the early episodes, how the Timberwolves after the Gobert trade, their bench isn't as developed, so they need to work on that. And then you've had more teams just like the Warriors and the Raptors and all those who have made good bench decisions and have developed their bench. So overall, I know it's a little bit early to tell in the season, but if you had to choose a list, let's say top 6 teams in the Eastern Conference for next season, who would it be?
Okay, I think it's pretty obvious. I think the Celtics and Bucks are going to be their top 3 easy. Don't worry, I'll get to the Raptors. Celtics, Bucks, and then let's say I'll start from the bottom. So the 6th seed, I think the Bulls. are probably going to be there at around the 6th seed. Then at 5, probably the Raptors again. 4, I'm seeing like 4 and 3. I think it's either going to be like the Cavs. Actually, it's actually really hard. I'm gonna push the Bulls out of the top 6. I'm gonna put Raptors at 6, the Sixers at 5, Cavs at 4, Miami at 3, Milwaukee at 2, and then the Celtics at 1. Like that's a really, really strong East. First, I have to say, first of all, like every one of those teams is really good, and I think like the top 5 teams there, like Sixers, Heat, Bucks, Celtics, and Cavs could all compete for a championship. Like at least on paper. We'll see how it actually goes out, but I think that's probably what it's going to be around. I think the Cavs could like jump up even higher. Like even earlier this year, they were up there. They were like a top 3 seed at one point. But then they obviously got injured and Mobley went down and they had issues there. But like I think they could definitely be top 3, possible.
I mean, I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Like I say, as a 44-win team last year, you got to think that like healthy plus adding another star, it's definitely a win-now move that I think could put them up into the 50-win category.
Yeah, because like the more you think about it, you did mention those top 16, but then you have the Bulls, you have the Hawks, you have the Nets. Like the Eastern Conference is so like I remember like 3 years ago, like you had the Warriors winning everything, and it's like, oh come on, when will the East actually become strong and LeBron James won't be making the finals? Now, like if you had like LeBron James and the Cavs, like and let's just say they didn't have like Donovan Mitchell or something like that, like the Eastern Conference would be so much more competitive. Like you have everybody who's on the West, who's on the East, or you've had guys in the East like Giannis or Embiid who have developed so much, like being such a superstar. And the Western Conference is also pretty stacked. So the league is just becoming more and more developed. Like although some players like LeBron or Steph or KD, like they're getting older, they're also getting better. Like Steph Curry is like considered like top 5 all time. Maybe LeBron, he might be the GOAT next year if he surpasses Kareem and maybe gets another ring. Like it's definitely like this season could be definitely a game changer for a lot of like NBA history.
Yeah, I feel like the league is like a lot more balanced right now because in both conferences, there's a lot of teams that you kind of see like, hey, they have a chance to make the Western Conference. They could make the finals. They could win it all. Like I think in the East, there's clearly 3 teams. Like right now that we know of that can compete for a championship. That's the Bucks, that's the Celtics, and the Heat. Because that's obviously the last 3 finalists also for the East. And then on the Western side, I'm thinking Warriors, I'm thinking Suns, and I'm thinking someone like even the Mavs, honestly. We'll see with that. But I just think the league is a lot more balanced, which I really like. And then also, can we talk a little bit about the Jazz and kind of what they're doing with this trade? I think that signing Colin Sexton was good. He's a young player. He obviously just came off an injury, but he's been pretty good before that. And the Cavs kind of they weren't going to use him in the future because they already have Darius Garland, who's proven himself to be an all-star in this league. So they don't really need Colin Sexton also. But I think for the Jazz, who are going to start rebuilding, or have clearly, are rebuilding because they're shipping out everyone. I wouldn't be surprised if like Bogdanovich is gone by next week. But like, I think it was a good choice to sign him. And I think that I think they're probably going to go for the number 1 pick this season. They're going to tank. They're going to be awful. Probably like 14 seed or something. They're going to try and get Victor Wembanyama and build off of him. That's what I think is like their perspective on this trade.
Yeah, because with Bogdanovich, like, I mean, you were saying that, like, yeah, I think Bogdanovich actually does, like, I think I saw something on, like, Bleacher Report or from one of those, like, NBA reporters that, like, the Jazz are trying to, like, trade, like, everybody, not just, like, their superstar, but they're trying to trade, like, Royce O'Neal or something, and, like, Bogdanovich, and, like, they already traded away, like, they trade away everybody else. So the Jazz are, yeah, like, I mean, you're right. Like, the Jazz are going to be, like, one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, even the worst. Like I think at this point, like the Jazz are just trying to like rebuild, and next year hopefully they can get the number 1 pick, and I think they're gonna be like on a similar track of like a team like the Magic are now, right? Because the Magic, they had like a few really good players, then they became bad, and when the Magic became bad, they got Paul Banchero, and they're kind of building off of him now. So you have superstars, you get rid of the superstars, you might suck for a year, and then you get the number 1 pick. So I think that's what, the Jazz are trying to do right now. Like what you said.
I mean, Yeah, it's the pure and simple definition of cleaning house. They're basically wiping the state clean. They're starting new. They have all the tools that they could possibly want in terms of the draft picks that they've got. And I think you could almost look at kind of the Cavs. They were in kind of that purgatory like several years ago before they ended up getting or developing guys like Darius Garland, guys like Evan Mobley. They traded for Jared Allen. And I think there might take probably the same kind of trajectory as a team like that, maybe in 3 years or so, if they start to find those guys that they can build around, that maybe they could trade for pieces to accompany them, just like the Cavs did. They maybe start with 2 players and then start to add more, and then maybe like they end up using some of those resources that maybe that they don't like, those draft picks that they don't end up using. Maybe if they like what they've got, flipping them again for, pieces to accompany the stars that they find. And I feel like they're setting themselves up for success, but then again, draft picks are always hit or miss, and it's not something you really like to see because it's not immediate results. But I feel like there's a very good chance that they could turn this around in about 3 years, and it's all
Yeah,
going to
I
come
think
full
they,
circle.
yeah, and I think they just saw that like there wasn't anything going for the core that they had. They had Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Quinn Snyder. They tried to bring people on. They brought Bogdanovich on. They tried to have people like Royce O'Neal as their that 3-and-D player. They tried to build a championship contending team around these two guys, but it just didn't really work out. Maybe if you want to even go back as far as like Gordon Hayward and Rudy Gobert, they traded away Hayward so that they could get that Donovan Mitchell pick and go from there. And it just hasn't really been working out since like say 2016 or so. And I think 6 years is a long time to wait. So I think this decision kind of had to be made. They're not just going to like keep paying Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell like I don't even know what it is, like 60 million together total per year just to lose in the first or second round of the playoffs. They want to see some progress from where they were. So I think it was a good decision in the end to trade those two players.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
all
Too
the
many.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, just a
Sorry.
little thing. Yeah, too many teams get stuck in that category where they're just kind of like they're scraping by. They're kind of happy with these mediocre results, and some teams need to flip that switch, start over. And I'm glad that they did rather than sticking with it.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think with the Jazz, like Ekamresh said, like they weren't like there wasn't like a season where they spiked, right? It wasn't like the Blazers, like they made the conference finals. Okay, other they got swept by the Warriors. Like they made the conference finals and made a big run, defeated a good team. Like the Jazz, like were just like a constant like first or second round team every single year. And in the bubble, I mean, yeah, they choked their 3-1 lead, but like looking at the Jazz roster right now, just to go a little bit more in depth, like the Jets still have, Jordan Clarkson. They have Colin Sexton, Malik Beasley. They have Taylor Horn Tucker, Jared Vanderbilt, and Akil Alexander Walker, Rudy Gay, Mike Conley, Stanley Johnson, Hassan Whiteside, Laurie Markin, Bogdan. Their team is not like trash. Their team is actually decent. Like I'm not saying playing. I'm not saying like I'm not saying they're making to make the play, but they're not gonna be terrible, right? Like I think if I'm looking at like the main guys on this team right now, Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton are probably the main guys. So trying to like really revolve around those guys. And if they do trade away Jordan Clarkson eventually, I mean, good for him because he won 6 Man of the Year. I mean, he's had a really good career after, his rookie season with the Lakers. So yeah, that's what I think about the Jazz.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think like someone like the Lakers, kind of talking a little about them, they should try and trade for like Bogdanovich, just to get him out of because obviously the Jazz are not going. They don't want someone like Bogdanovich. Bogdanovich is at this point in his career, he's there to assist a championship contending team, be kind of that like 3 or 4 power forward or small forward that shoots the ball well and kind of can score in bunches. I don't think he's going to be helpful on a rebuilding team that's trying to lose games and get a top pick next year. So I think like someone like the Lakers, maybe even like the Warriors, who lost a little bench depth, should try and scoop Bogdanovich up for a cheaper price because he is available. And Jazz definitely don't want to keep him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, the Jazz are just going to go into a full rebuild. Like,
Oh, yeah,
because
that was obvious when
yeah,
Rudy Gobert got traded.
yeah, there's no need to keep like now that I think about, there's no need to like keep all those like role players in your team when it's not going to like give you a humongous asset. So
And I did like the rookies that they did get in return. They got Walker Kessler, who should be a great defensive asset. He's a shot blocking machine. He's got pretty much arms like a bird. Um, and then they got Ochai Agbaji, who I liked watching in Kansas. He could be a great 3-and-D threat for them. So they got guys that they can start kind of build around. I don't know if they're necessarily going to be star players in the future, but they definitely got role players in return that they could start developing and maybe use with the draft picks they have in the future. So it's not like they got, peanuts or they got aging players. They traded for guys who are going to eventually help them.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, they have 7 first-round picks, I think, in like the next 3 years or something like that, which is absolutely insane. Like, they could easily they have picks from all sorts of teams, and those teams are probably going to be pretty good, like the Timberwolves and the Cavs. But picks are picks, and getting more young players is what they want. And they're more likely to find people that are going to support their cast of players by having more first-round picks. So I think it's just a good decision by them to go into rebuild and really try. And they got a lot of compensation, so it wasn't like they just handed out 2 superstar players or star players, I should say. But they got a lot back in return.
Yeah, and like in the draft, like similar to like Donovan Mitchell. Like Donovan Mitchell was not a high pick, and came out to be a really good player. Like you could draft somebody who's like not a top 10 pick, but like 20th pick, and they can come out to be really, really good. So you just have to notice how they play. But that's just, every NBA team does that. But I think with the Donovan Mitchell situation, we can move on to another big thing happening that has happened. Chet Holmgren, the second pick of the draft, is out for the entire season. He was injured while defending LeBron James' layup attempt after landing awkwardly on his foot. He's out for the season with a Lisfranc injury. And Sam Presti still stands with drafting Chet, like the GM of the Thunder, and he's supporting his belief. Honestly, I think that they should keep him. He's a really good player, but I don't know. I was like, after he got injured, everyone's like telling me that like, oh, like Chet Holmgren is skinny, that's why he got injured. Like he got bodied by LeBron and he like landed on his foot. Like I don't know. There's some like criticism about that, which I thought was kind of strange.
It does not. Yeah, sorry about that. You can go ahead.
No, go.
I just feel like, it doesn't really do well for his public image, and it kind of reaffirms a lot of the concerns that they had about him. And it's more important that the coaching staff obviously believes in him, because they're the one that's going to be controlling his minutes and controlling his rehab. But it's probably not going to have a whole lot of fans on his side. And I feel like a lot of people are going to give up rather quickly. Like, I don't think it's necessarily going to be like a season, like a completely season defining move for that team. I think with or without him, they were still going to be, just kind of getting through the season. But even so, this is not what a player like him needed in terms of just kind of like his development and kind of squishing the doubts that they had about him draft time.
Because you're looking at him in the summer, like he was racking up like 7 blocks per game. Like, he already had the performances that he wanted. He had the motivation, like although it may be kind of dumb, like when they asked him who do you think the best player in the NBA, he said himself in 2 months. Like, although it may sound kind of dumb.
It did not age well at all.
Yeah. Although it may sound kind of dumb, he still has the self-confidence that you need in the NBA. If it was like Anthony Bennett saying I'm the best player in the NBA when he turned out to be the worst player in the NBA, like that's different. But I think Chet will come out. I think it's going to be something like Zion. I don't think it's going to be where he's on like an injury chain where he keeps getting injured. But I think it's like Zion. He's going to start late. He'll have a good start to his career. And in terms of the Thunder, it is a disadvantage because you're looking forward to the trio of Shea, Josh Giddey, and Chet. So that's not going to be good. But then you also have Pokusevski, who's also a good shot blocker, and reporters always compare him to Chet Holmgren. So the Thunder just have to take this year as a stepping stone. It's going to be tough. It'll probably be similar to last year, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know who they got in the offseason other than their draft picks. But I think that, you know, yeah, OKC is gonna have a good future. I know that, but it's gonna be tough for them.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's like it's kind of funny. Like the OKC and the Jazz are the two teams like competing for the most first round picks in the coming years because both of them just got rid of all their superstars and got a lot of picks in return. So, but I think both are on a similar trajectory. I think OKC was we're kind of expecting them to have a faster turnaround. Maybe not this season, obviously, but the season after, maybe they'll make like the play in or something. But we'll see. I think both teams have very exciting futures. And I don't know. They're both doing the right things. They're kind of locking in on their like franchise centerpieces. The Jazz obviously are going to try to do that next season. Then they're just going to build around them and let them develop.
Yeah, I mean the Thunder do have Jalen Williams who got drafted. Actually, they have two Jalen Williamses, but they're both spelled differently, which is weird. But they have Shea, Josh Giddey. They still have Dort, Lugans Dort. They actually do have quite a few rookies in their team. So, and Derek Favors, who's their veteran. So, the Thunder do have a super young team, which actually is an advantage now that I think about it. So you can this year without Chet, you can give those guys time to develop and to become better and to truly learn and have team chemistry and to learn about themselves as a player. And then when Chet comes in, just welcome Chet in and get it going. Maybe make the playoffs or maybe not, or I don't know, but try to improve year by year.
So I've got a question for both of you in terms of this Chet situation. So if you were to place yourself in the shoes of an NBA GM or an NBA head coach, how are you feeling about your players, especially your young stars, your draft picks, playing in these camps, these mini leagues and stuff over the summer where, they're doing it in these really packed gyms with not maybe the best like training staff and they're experiencing injuries like these, or at least there's a possibility of like that. Would you possibly feel comfortable like, talking to them and holding them out and stuff, or like, are you just going to let them, considering it's the off season, just let them do what they please?
I mean, not being biased as a Raptors fan, but if you're like Scotty Barnes and Malachi Flynn, they played in a pro league together for one game. They played against amateurs who okay, they're good at basketball, but they're not NBA level, right? So the risk of getting injured may be a little bit less because you're not, being heavily defended and you're just having fun. They scored like 90 points combined, so it's ridiculous. But then if you're playing in a game, it's not just I think there's so many people that did not notice what happened in that game. Like you noticed LeBron and then you noticed Chet, but like the lineups were crazy. You had LeBron, DeJounte Murray, Bonchero, Holmgren, Aaron Gordon, like one of the Bucks rookies. You had you had somebody else. Like you had like another star. Like you had so many NBA players. It was like an NBA game almost. Like you don't want your players to play an NBA game before the season starts. You want your players to be healthy, not to go through it. Okay, and the gym that they played in was bad. Like the floor was wet. They canceled the game after the first quarter. Like, so it's just and that was a dangerous condition. I think in LeBron's first game without Chet, although it was really chaotic because it's LeBron. I mean, it's definitely a good idea because for all the guys for all the people who can't afford to go to the NBA arenas and pay a lot of money to go watch them play, especially LeBron, because all his games cost more than like an average game. Like it's a good concept, but again, I think doing it in bigger places, not necessarily like gyms where you can probably see AAU games for like boys that are like 11 years old, and then the next day you see like an NBA game happening there. Like I think going to I wouldn't say an arena, but like maybe like a high school arena where it's not like big, but it's not small too. Like you can fit like a few, like I don't know, you know, I don't know.
First, for me personally, what I think is like I don't think you need to like stop
Yeah,
them because here's the thing. What's to say like if they're gonna get injured, off of like these jumps and the landings, what's to say that it won't happen during the season? It's probably going to happen during the season, I would say. I mean, maybe the conditioning is better during the season, like you're playing every day, so you're kind of used to the landings and jumps. But I feel like If you're someone like, you're someone built like Chet, who's built, so differently. Like he's 185 and he's 7 foot. Like I think an injury is bound to happen for someone like that. So I think it's like a specific case. So maybe like tell someone like Chet Holmgren, tell someone like a Zion who, there are concerns about the way they're built and how that'll affect their health. I think you can, but I don't think you need to go like tell Kyrie Irving or LeBron James that they can't play in a pro-am game because they might get injured. I think it's just less likely.
Wait, Chet Holmgren is 185.
He's under 200. I might have said it might be 195, but like he's not. He's very light.
He's
like,
not.
Okay, that's like very light. Oh my god, I weigh 155, so that's like almost my weight. That's crazy.
To put it in perspective, it's. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, based on what you saw
in the summer league, it didn't look like an issue, but that's still a small sample size.
But also, like you never know, because like in that game, like the floors were wet. I don't know if that's why, but that could have also been a reason why he got injured. I don't think it's because LeBron bodied him and he fell on his foot or something. I don't think it was that, because everyone was saying it. But yeah, his weight needs to be better, because he's 7 feet tall, 195. I mean, if you look at like, I don't know, somebody like Scotty Barnes, who's like 6 foot, I don't know, 9. He weighs like probably like 40 pounds more. Like I'm like almost a foot shorter than him, and I weigh like 30 pounds, 40 pounds less than him. So it's definitely insane. But he needs to. I mean, I think it's like you guys are right. Like Zion and Chet are so related, because Zion is like overweight. It needs to lose a lot of weight. Oh, he's not overweight. Sorry, initial. He's not overweight, but he's like he weighs like he needs to lose a little bit of weight. Chet Holmgren is underweight. He needs to gain a lot more weight if he wants to be a like Kristaps Porzingis. Like Kristaps Porzingis is a perfect example, because although he's taller, he weighs a good amount. That way, although he does get injured.
He does get injured too.
That was a bad comparison. Okay, all tall people have problems with getting injured. It's not my. So I don't know. Maybe Joel Embiid. Actually, Joel Embiid gets injured. Dude, I don't know. I can't think of anybody. Oh my god!
Actually, I was gonna say Kevin Durant, but like not Kevin Durant either.
Yeah, he got injured too.
Maybe like Giannis. I guess Giannis is the best example.
Giannis also did get injured a couple times. Oh, that actually is a good example, because Jokic does not get injured that much.
But Jokic also doesn't like jump and dunk and run like other guys.
He's not a flashy player.
Yeah,
he's a guy that plays to his size and exclusively plays as a 7 foot, 245 pound. And I feel like it's like Chet's play style versus his size. It definitely is something that he needs to have in order to be able to execute his strengths to the best of his ability, which is to be able to be like a 7 foot guard. But you have to be able to draw a line where it's like, yeah, I got you because you're capable of doing these things on the court that not many other guys your size can, but I still want you to be able to play like a 7 footer, it's hard to be able to say, hey, I want you to play like both a Rudy Gobert and block every shot you see, and I want you to play like, I don't know, yeah, like it's kind of like a guard, and be able to, and it's, I don't know, it'd be hard to look at that from a coach's perspective and be like, how do I get the best out of like all of your abilities and try and manage your weight at the same time and find a good kind of healthy balance that sees you excel at both positions but not get kind of pushed around and risk your injury.
Yeah, I mean Jokic and you go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I was just like one thing. I think it could also be like a Ben Simmons situation, or like a Joel Embiid or Blake Griffin situation, where like, how they all missed their first years, but then they came back and they played. Like, yes, obviously, none of these people are like the most healthy careers, but they did come back. They were playing full seasons. They were to contribute to your teams more than they did like initially. So I think that's likely what's going to happen. Like, he's going to come back next season. He's going to be really good, but he's always going to have injury concerns around him just because of how he plays and the way he's built.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic and Chet are two completely different people. Like, Jokic weighs like 100 pounds more than Chet at the same height. So, Chet doesn't need to go up to Jokic level, but Chet needs to go to the point where he can in the paint. He's like safe. He's not body. He's strong. He can keep himself, balance and not balance, but like whatever the word is. Like he can keep himself in the paint and like he can like guard the big guys and like I think that getting stronger will definitely limit him to like less injuries. Because if you're skinny and you're 7 feet tall, like just forget about the NBA. Like as a person, like it's just
Play
like
volleyball.
not
I don't know.
yeah, exactly. Like it's not healthy. So like he needs to definitely I don't know if he probably doesn't even eat, to be honest. He's probably one of those people who he's probably one of those people who like skips dinner at night, just like gets like a snack or something like that. I don't know. But like yeah,
Probably just has a ridiculous BMI or not BMI. What's it called? Metabolism.
yeah,
He probably
that's
just
true.
burns more than he's probably someone who's probably hard to diet for in terms of like if you look at the team staff, it's probably someone that like you don't want them to like start overeating, but then you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Yeah. Um and then yeah, I mean with Chet, yeah, I mean the NBA is gonna be awesome next season. I mean, from all the trades that have
Totally.
happened, I mean, although Chet's out, I mean, you're having a lot of interesting teams. You have the Hawks, now you have the Cavs, so the Eastern Conference is making big moves this offseason. Those small role players that can make a difference are moving from team to team. I mean, actually, I didn't tell anybody this. Actually, I didn't even tell my own parents this, but I saw Steph Curry like in person like 3 days ago. So
What?
just give a little bit of background. So I go to a school in Charlotte, and I mean, okay, obviously I do, but Grant Williams, who's a former Celtic, he went to my school. Like it's like a K through 12 school. And then the school across the street from us is called Charlotte Christian. That's like our rival in every single sport. And we had a football game against them last week. Steph Curry went to Charlotte Christian, and he visited Charlotte Christian on the Friday that we played them in football. So he went to my school for the football game, and I saw him there. But he was super far away with like a bunch of people, and I couldn't go anywhere because that was like the opposing team's like little place, and I didn't want to like get beat up by like a bunch of like like buff guys with mullets. So like I didn't want to like do anything, but it was really cool. Yeah. And my
That's
friend
sick.
yeah, but yeah, I was confused by who's in Charlotte. But all other than that, I mean, thanks guys for watching this podcast. It was fun to talk. We haven't done a podcast in a few weeks. But we'll see you guys in the next episode. We'll have a fun video coming up the day after this video is posted. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on our socials. And with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next one.